Devaki Nandanaya cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna everyone. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, entitled Maharaj Nimi Meets the Nine Yogendras, Verse 7. Brahmam statapi pruchamo dharman bhagavatam stava yan shrutya shraddhaya martyo muchyate sarvato bhayat. Synonyms: Brahman or Brahmana, tatapi, api, tathapi. Nevertheless, although I am completely satisfied just by seeing you, Prichamaha, I am inquiring about Dharman, religious duties, Bhagavatan, which are specifically meant for pleasing the Supreme Lord, Tava, from you, Yan, which Shrutva, hearing, Shraddhaya, with faith, Martyaha, one destined to die, Muchate, he is freed, Sarvataha, from all Bhayat, fear. Translation and purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Translation: O Brahmana, although I am satisfied simply by seeing you, I still wish to inquire about those duties which give pleasure to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Any mortal who faithfully hears about them is freed from all kinds of fear. Reading the translation again: O Brahmana, although I am satisfied simply by seeing you, I still wish to inquire about those duties which give pleasure to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Any mortal who faithfully hears about them is freed from all kinds of fear. Purport: according to Srila Jiva Goswami, Narad Muni might have been reluctant to instruct Vasudev because of natural respect for Vasudev's exalted position as the father of Krishna. Narada might have thought that since Vasudeva was already perfect in Krishna consciousness, there was no need to instruct him in the process of devotional service. Therefore, anticipating Narada's possible reluctance, Vasudeva specifically requested Narada to preach to him about devotional service to Krishna. This is the symptom of a pure devotee. A pure devotee of Krishna never considers himself exalted. To the contrary, he meekly feels that his devotional service is most imperfect, but that somehow or other Lord Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, is accepting such imperfect service. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has stated in this regard, Trinadapi sunichena tarori api sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadaharihi. One can chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, feeling himself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respect to others. Sikshashtaka 3. The conditioned souls in the material world become falsely proud of their so-called family lineage. This pride is false because one who has taken birth in the material world is in a fallen situation, even in the best of cases. Vasudev, however, was certainly not fallen, since he had taken birth in the family of Krishna. Since he was Krishna's father, his position was most exalted. Yet, because he was a pure devotee, he did not become proud of his special relationship with Krishna. Instead, considering himself deficient in spiritual understanding, he took advantage of the appearance of Narada Muni, a great preacher of Krishna consciousness, by immediately inquiring from him about devotional service. This incomparable humility of a pure devotee of Krishna is far superior to the false humility of the impersonalist, who actually maintains a desire to be equal to God, though adapting the external behavior of a meek and saintly person. Bhayam or fear is caused by seeing something other than Krishna. Dvitiya Abhiniveshataha. Everything is actually an emanation from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as stated in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadi Asya Yataha, and as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavaha, Vasudevaha Sarvamiti, etc. Krishna is the well-wishing friend of every living entity, Suhurdam Sarvabhutanam. If a living being gives up his misguided attempt to defy the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrenders to the Lord, certainly he becomes confident in his eternal relationship with Krishna. A surrendered soul can actually experience that Krishna is his well-wishing friend And since that friend is the supreme absolute controller of all existence, there is certainly no cause for fear. The son of a rich man certainly feels confident while touring the estate of his father. Similarly, an empowered representative of the government feels confident in the discharge of his duty. In the same way, a devotee of Krishna, acting as a representative of the Supreme Lord, feels confident because he can understand at every moment that the entire material and spiritual creation is strictly under the control of his benevolent master. The non devotee, however, denies the supreme position of Krishna and therefore imagines that something is different from Krishna. For example, if a servant of the government thinks that there is some dangerous obstacle that cannot be controlled by the government's power, he becomes fearful. If a child feels that there is some power that cannot be subdued by his father, then he becomes fearful. Similarly, because we artificially think that there is something within existence that's not under the strict control of the benevolent Lord, we become fearful. Such a concept of a second thing, something other than Krishna, is called the Dvitiya Abhinivesha, and it immediately creates a foreign atmosphere of bhayam or fear. Krishna is called Abhayankara, which means that he destroys all fear in the heart of his devotee. Sometimes so called scholars, distraught after many years of impersonal speculation and enjoyment of materialistic life, become fearful and anxious. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati compares such disturbed philosophers to the bound vulture in the Chandogya Upanishad. Desiring liberation from fear, such speculators unfortunately concoct an imaginary liberation, vimuktamaninaha, and try to take shelter of impersonal spiritual existence or voidness. But the Bhagavatam 10:32 states, Aruhya krichrena param padam tataha patantyado anadrata yushmadangraya. Because such speculators have not rectified their original mistake of rejecting their eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they fall from their concocted liberation and thus remain in a fearful condition. Vasudev, however, is openly eager to hear more and more about devotional service to Krishna, and therefore he states, Yan Shrutva Shraddhaya Martyo Muchyate Sarvato Bhayat. Simply by hearing about pure devotional service to Krishna, a conditioned soul can easily free himself from all types of fear, and this transcendental freedom is certainly eternal. Reading again. Vasudev, however, is openly eager to hear more and more about devotional service to Krishna, and therefore he states, Yan Shrutva Shraddhayo Martyo Muchyate Sarvato Bhayat. Simply by hearing about pure devotional service to Krishna, a conditioned soul can easily free himself from all types of fear, and this transcendental freedom is certainly eternal. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरि वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukum karoti vachalam, pangum langayate girim. Yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramanandamadvam Shri Chaitanya. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Seeking blessings of all the devotees, Adi Pushpa, Virgin Prabhu, and everybody in the room. That we could share something which is pleasing to Krishna and also purifying to our hearts and inspiring in devotional service. And here reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, chapter 2 and verse 7, reading the translation again. O Brahmana, although I am satisfied simply by seeing you, I still wish to inquire about those duties which give pleasure to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Any mortal who faithfully hears about them is freed from all kinds of fear. And we just read the purport. The purport discussed why is Vasudeva specifically saying these things, uh, that he wants to encourage Narada Muni to freely speak to him about the devotional service to Krishna, because he might think Vasudeva is already perfect, and so he might not instruct in detail. So he is making sure that Narada Muni's heart is free to share about Krishna to him, despite he being the father of the Supreme Lord. And the purport also touched about the concept of fear, that how it is caused by seeing something other than Krishna, Dvitiya Viniveshata. And it was very nicely explained that how we artificially think that there is something within existence that is not directly or strictly under the control of the benevolent Lord. This verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhurdam Sarva Bhutanam Gyatva Shantim Ruchati. Why do a conditioned soul loses its peace, becomes disturbed? Because the conditioned soul is not fixed in the faith that Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam, that everything that I do is for the pleasure of Krishna. He is the ultimate enjoyer of everything that I do. That conviction or clarity or realization is not there. And also, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, he is not just, why is he entitled to all the, uh, to enjoy everything that I do? Because he is Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, he is the controller of all existence. So if somebody is powerful and who is the beneficiary of all our activities, and if they are not our friend, if they are not favorably disposed to us, then that could be a very precarious situation. Like, so that's why the third condition is most important, that he is not just powerful and he is not just the owner of everything, but he is also the supreme most dear friend of every living entity. Suhurdam Sarva Bhutanam. He is the dearmost friend of all living entities. So here, when they are writing in the purport, they write, we artificially think that there is something within existence that is not strictly under the control of the benevolent Lord. He's not just the controller, because he is also benevolent. Because we don't, uh, because the conditioned soul does not understand either facts, that the Lord is benevolent and everything is under his control, uh, becomes fearful. So such a concept of a second thing, something other than Krishna, is called as Dvitiya Abhinivesha. And as soon as we think there is something independent of Krishna's control, something that exists independent of Krishna, immediately it creates a atmosphere of bhayam or fear. And then they also explained about how impersonal liberation is incomplete, and anyone who hears about Krishna can be situated in the transcendental freedom of being a servant of Krishna and overcome all types of fear. So these are the three broad topics touched upon in the purport. And this was also a very nice section, because the verses from that Vasudev speaks from verse 4, 5, and 6, they are considered very important verses. Especially text 6 is a very famous verse, which distinguishes between the demigods, worship of the demigods, and worshipping devotees, or hearing from devotees. It is very clearly this section, the verses 5 and 6, distinguishes how hearing from a devotee, especially an advanced devotee, here Narada Muni is such a great example. Hearing from an advanced devotee who has realized what he is speaking, uh, there is nothing compared to that in this world, and especially the worship of the demigods pale before the association of great devotees. And yesterday we we saw how the worship of the demigods, the reciprocation is congruent to or proportional to what we deserve. In bhakti, in the association of a great Vaishnava specifically, there is nothing that we deserve. It's all given out of mercy. And that's why when some of Prabhupada's disciples asked him, Srila Prabhupada, what did we do to, what was our qualification that we could receive you as our spiritual master, we could get you as your as our spiritual master? And Prabhupada said, you had no qualification, I created your qualification. So it is the costless mercy of a great soul, a realized and it or an eternal associate of the Supreme Lord, that they come down and they actually speak and give their association, create fortune for conditioned souls. And that's the difference between worshipping a demigod and hearing from a pure devotee, because worship of the demigods reciprocates according to the individual's efforts. However, an association with a pure devotee creates unlimited fortune in terms of connecting us, reminding us of our eternal connection with Krishna, even though we don't have any qualification or haven't done anything to actually deserve it. And here in continuation of that, he's saying, I'm actually satisfied just by seeing you. Sometimes just seeing a great personality itself inspires devotion in the heart of a conditioned soul. Just seeing them itself would be so inspiring. What to speak of hearing from them? So that's why he's saying, I still wish to inquire about those duties which give pleasure to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here a nice word was used in the verse, Dharman Bhagavatan. Means Bhagavad Dharma is that those duties that give pleasure to the Supreme Lord. So, as Prahlad Maharaj says, hearing about Krishna, speaking about Krishna, remembering Krishna, these are all Bhagavata Dharma, because these are activities that give actually pleasure to the Supreme Lord. Or any activity which gives pleasure to the Supreme Lord can be considered as Bhagavata Dharma. However, strictly speaking, there are core activities which directly puts us in connection with Krishna, especially in the practicing stage, there is a differentiation. In the perfected stage, there is no differentiation. Anything a devotee does, a pure devotee does, can all be considered as Bhagavata Dharma. But in our case, it is very specifically in the stage of practice, it is very specifically divided so that we don't get into the trap of false ego and think anything I do is bhakti. So a conditioned soul can actually, because the conditioned soul lacks taste, might put away the core activities of hearing and chanting about Krishna, and can become caught up in false ego and engage in devotional service externally, but can engage as if it is a mundane activity for their own egoistic pleasure. Still, because it is done in connection with Krishna, Krishna will purify them, and that purification can come through in terms of intense misery of mind, uh, going through difficulties, because we will run into problems in this world when we are trying to execute anything. If we are in a egoistic conception, that can lead to a lot of heartburn, uh, problems with other people or devotees, and that can actually give such intense mental misery, eventually to shake us up and wake us up from that egoistic conception. I'm doing this to be great, from that conception to I'm doing this service to please Krishna. So it is not very easy for a conditioned soul to come to that level. It takes great amount of association. It takes an association of a great devotee to understand, oh, the quality of activities are different. Externally, they may seem so, but an advanced devotee performs it for the pleasure of Krishna, and the quality is palpably different from a person who does it egoistically to boost their own false ego. Externally, sometimes the other person could be extremely efficient and excellent in executing the activity, and Krishna may even benefit, in the sense Krishna may even accept it, and people may even benefit from that service. But that individual will have to go through purification to come to the state that whatever I do is for the pleasure of Krishna exclusively. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, if a person with an impure intention offers a flower to Krishna, even if it is done through, okay, let's keep it simple. Even if he offers it to Krishna, he says the flower may reach Krishna, but the person may not reach Krishna because the intention is not pure. However, because the action of offering is there, gradually the person will be purified. And in that purified state, that person can actually reach Krishna. So, doing it, any service, be it speaking or sweeping, it could be anything. Because in an organization, in the circles of devotees where Krishna Katha is considered a main limb of devotional activity, someone who is speaking may be given more external respect. Someone who is sweeping may not be given that much external respect. However, all those activities, when done with the proper attitude to please Krishna, have the same effect. Still, in the practicing stage, a person cannot just be caught up in the physical services alone. It is very important to engage in the primary devotional practices, limbs of hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna and worshipping. All those things are included in the ultimate stage. There is no differentiation. A devotee could be sweeping and be fully connected to Krishna if they are spiritually on a certain stature. And they will, the sign is, while sweeping, they will be able to fully remember Krishna, the connection with that activity that they are trying to do, and they will feel nourished after the service. And also, their remembrance of Krishna before, after, and while doing the service will keep on increasing and will make them humble, grateful, will move their hearts, will bring tears in their eyes, and will become extremely grateful for their opportunity to serve Krishna. However, until a person is fully purified, we also have to regularly take out the time along with our services to be able to purify our consciousness very clearly about hearing about Krishna and chanting, and also visiting holy places. That, that all of these things can continue to make an impression in our minds that this is all done for the pleasure of Krishna. And any mortal, I'm reading from the translation, any mortal who faithfully hears about devotional service is freed from all kinds of fear. And there is a nice verse in the Bhagavatam, Canto 2, chapter 1 and verse 5. Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Harihi Shrotavyaha Kirtitavyascha Smartavyascha Ichatabhyam. This is one of the first verses that Shukadev Goswami speaks. O descendant of King Bharata, one who desires to be free from all miseries must hear about, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead, who is the super soul, the controller, and the savior from all miseries. So anyone who desires to be free from, the exact word in this used in the Sanskrit is ichata abhayam. One who actually desires fearlessness needs to hear about, glorify, and remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the way that by remembering the Supreme Lord and by hearing about and kirtan, doing, speaking about or singing about the Supreme Lord and remembering the Supreme Lord, these are the ways to become fearless. And here we see the same theme that Vasudeva was speaking, that any mortal who faithfully hears about devotional service, Bhagavata Dharma, is freed from all kinds of fear. And and this chapter is a very important chapter, philosophically speaking. In this particular chapter, there are verses which predict Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. There are verses which speaks about Kali Yuga Dharma, which speaks about the importance of the chanting of the holy names, Krishna Kirtan. In this way, this chapter is philosophically a very important chapter. We'll touch upon deity worship, we'll touch upon different yugas, we'll touch upon Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Yuga Dharma. Everything is very clearly given. The chapter is highly quoted in the Sandarbhas by Jiva Goswami. So, very excited to read this chapter along. And as I said, we just crossed these verses 5 and 6. They're also philosophically very important verses to distinguish the worship of the demigods from hearing about the Supreme Lord from especially a pure devotee, devotional service. How they are very different and the results are different. And here we see the most humble mood of Vasudeva, that he is so eager to hear from Narada Muni. And these are some of the points. Thank you very much for the opportunity. If anybody has any thoughts, opinions, anything to ask, please, you feel free to share. Hare Krishna, Adi Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. We are basking in your sincerity and the wisdom. Your Virtual Master is empowering you. Such a nice class. The subject, the word fear, comes up so many times in the purport. Fear, fear, and fearless, right? And the inquiry is, well, what do you do? You know, what is the cause of fear? And what should you do? What kind of activity will mitigate fear? So Krishna very clearly says, Ma Suchaha, right? Sarvadhamam, surrender, do not fear, do not hesitate, do not worry, right? Do not fear. And they have to go together, according to the verse. We're praying to Prabhupada what to say, how to explain this. Unless we surrender, we cannot be fearless. Isn't it? Once we surrender, there's nothing to protect, nothing to lose, nothing to gain. And then what should you do? What should you do? What kind of activity? That's, the inquiry is there. So in the Bible there's an instruction that Lord Jesus gave to his disciples. He said, go out. Don't worry about where you're going to live. Don't worry about what you're going to wear. Don't worry about what you're going to eat. Just what? Preach. Just preach. The materialistic person is worried about where he's going to live, what's he going to wear, what's he going to eat. Don't bring a bag of money. Just preach. Everything will be there. You quoted that amazing verse, Bhoktaram Jagatapisam Sarva Lokamaheshwaram. Krishna's in control. Krishna is the person we're trying to please, and Krishna is our friend. And what pleases Krishna? Krishna says, no one is more dear to me than one who shares this message with others. So sometimes we may do many, many things, and if those things are connected to distributing Krishna consciousness, to pushing on Lord Chaitanya's movement, then those things are directly or indirectly preaching. But if we do a lot of things and we forget that we're supposed to give Krishna consciousness, there will be some residual fear. To the extent that we're fearful, it means that I have not surrendered everything yet. So without any attachment for the results, engage in the endeavor, humble though it may be, try to please Krishna by giving Krishna consciousness to someone in some way. Some people, devotees, moved to Pittsburgh. And Krishna continue to bless you with pure devotional service. And they told me, we don't have any facility to preach. We prayed to Krishna what to say, and Krishna said, offer a glass of water to Krishna and go out and pour it on a tree. You can distribute prasadam in some way. It may be elaborate, it may be extremely simple, but Krishna will be pleased, and everything will be there for you. Ma suchaha. Do not fear. Jeffrey Eckler is attempting to say something. Please, anyone else who wants to share how to be fearless, we'd love to hear it. All glories to Prabhupada.
Adi, I was just supporting your point with some quotes from the Bhagavad Gita. That's all. Hare Krishna.
It's not my point, it's Krishna's point. Sometimes they would say, Prabhupada, you must be saying, I'm not saying, Prabhupada.
Very I understand.
Krishna, if I say do not fear, what does that mean, But if we're repeating Guru and we give the credit to the instruction to the person who's actually giving that instruction, the Supreme Lord, why not? So we hear how wonderful is Krishna.
Well, it's funny, Adi, that you say that because in work, oftentimes people will blame the computer's not working or my email went down, and we joke, we say, oh, blame the equipment, not the operator. But kind of on the flip side of that, we do tend to praise people who speak the truth about God, and maybe there's some beauty in that. At least it helps us understand what that love feels like a little bit more real than it's, or at least it's more conceivable to us. So thank you, Adi, for speaking the truth, and I'll continue to appreciate you for it. Maybe indirectly, Krishna, for it, but that's my fallen condition. Hare Krishna.
We'll take the words of appreciation and then we'll pass them on and say, oh, glories to Prabhupada. We don't reject them. No, no, no. We accept it. Yes, my spiritual master is making me into a jewel. What can I tell you? Right? How wonderful is Krishna.
Thank you, Adipush Prabhu. I do see Matranath Prabhu's hand up. Hare Krishna.
Haripo, thank you for beautiful class, speaking such, so nicely on the sastra around this matter of fear and why it can be so hard for the conditioned soul to really dive into bhakti so deeply. And I was thinking the subject around fear is trust. Do we trust Krishna? And I also see a lot of time it's not just that these are random events, but we get handed our karma, and we get a lot of time, most people get a little bit traumatized from their karma in this world because this world is full of suffering. So there's a lot of people that they may believe in God, but sometimes they thinking, how could God do this to me? This was how could something like this he'd be so cruel? I want to believe in him. I want to serve him, and I think this can even infiltrate in devotees' lives, where I think it's part of it can be part of the journey if we really look at what are my fears. And in myself, I know, and through my devotional life, um, I was very excited and enthusiastic, and I still try to be enthusiastic. Utsaha. We have to have that enthusiasm. But to really look deeply, what are my fears? Do I trust Krishna? Do I actually believe, in this verse in Bhagavad Gita that he is reciprocating with everything that I do? Um, and if we don't develop that faith that he is and he does love us, we were talking about Leela yesterday, and why Min asked why we hear Leela, and or what's the relevance and what of hearing Leela. So it's also, I see, like, hearing Leela, we experience how Krishna loves his devotees. We experience how Krishna protects his devotees over and over. And it's really important to hear the philosophy, and it's really important to hear Leela, because we can get this experience of how Krishna actually deeply cares for the ones who care for him. And it gives us motivation to care for him. And I was also thinking we should talk to Krishna and let him know that I am fearful, or I am struggling. Please show me how to trust you more. Please show me how to develop more faith in you. And like this, actually not just hearing the philosophy, not just hearing the Leela, but actually talking to Krishna and opening the heart up vulnerably and sharing where we're really at and what's really happening for us. Maybe you can share more about that, Prabhu, and just um, something contemplating from your class.
Thank you, Mathuranath Prabhu. That how means hearing about Krishna and his pastimes can actually make us understand and also remove that deep-seated fear which comes from bodily conception. And especially, there is no alternative to the association of devotees who are actually advanced to instill fearlessness in the hearts of practicing devotees. Despite knowing everything, on our own, we may not have the ability to break through the threshold. And that comes from association of someone who already embodies those qualities. And in their association, hearing from them, serving them, and keeping them close to the hearts can gradually raise us above. And in that process of taking association, we cannot relegate the responsibility of doing the inner work. So it's like both. We take the association of an advanced devotee, and also, as you were saying, be very conscious of our condition and bring it to Krishna. That how I'm very fearful, and also open our hearts to those devotees, and get instruction like how Vasudeva was revealing his heart to Narada Muni and receiving instructions. So in this process of hearing and chanting, especially in the association of someone who embodies those qualities which we are aspiring, is the science. And also among devotees, there will be different kinds of devotees. Like in a pharmacy, there are different kinds of medications. All of them are medications, but something uh, is suitable for one's particular condition. So among devotees also, there will be devotees of different types, moods, uh, and ways of doing things. It will be different. So we also, in general, we respect, and take association and are respectful of everybody. However, for our own condition, we need to choose Sajatiya Sangha, what Rupa Goswami calls as like-minded association. In the association in which we feel uplifted, and the surgery is done, but it is not in a, sometimes like devotees can speak like truth and may make others feel demotivated. So it is not, what they are speaking is not true. It is just the way it is done may not suit someone's psychophysical nature. So that is why Sajatiya Sangha is a very important thing. uh, Krishna Bhakti is not a blind thing, is not like okay, just come and chant. It's not like a formulaic thing. It's a matter of heart, and it is usually works wonders when all the conditions are met. uh, for example, hearing is a very important activity in bhakti. But if we don't have faith in the person whom we are hearing from, then the heart does not actually feel uplifted or inspired or opens up. So it is also very important, all the aspects of hearing is met, the conditions. When they are met, then it's like a chemical reaction. Then there is all kinds of uh, results that come from. Otherwise, despite the external activity of just hearing, plain hearing, it could be inspiring. One point from a person even we don't know, or we may not have fully appreciate their ways or anything. There can be one point that can actually uplift us and push us for that day in our devotional service. However, there should be some people in whom you have full faith, your heart fully opens, and then you become humble, you become tiny before them, willingly, not in a very conscious state. Just in their presence, you are like fully opened up. And in that way, when we hear, then actually it just straight goes into the heart and makes us introspective and uplifts us. Even the most hardest truth, when it is heard from a person in whom we have faith, it can act like surgery, like a doctor, an expert doctor can actually pierce through, cut through deep parts of our body and still heal us. The same general person with a knife will not be able to do. It will be just pain causing, or it could be death. So uh, there is no alternative to finding someone in whom we have absolute faith and hearing from them. And that's why the association of an advanced devotee is considered the most rarest thing to achieve, to get. That's why Vasudeva is so eager. He's like, don't think I'm father of Krishna, so stop from speaking. It's so rare to find someone like Narada Muni. It's my fortune that I finally have your association. Don't get into all these formalities and not speak. So he's very eager to hear from Narada Muni. So we need to find like-minded as well as advanced association regularly, and hear and use that opportunity to instill deeper things in our hearts, which we could generally hear on a daily basis within the association from various devotees. However, from someone whom we have absolute faith and we feel like completely opened up in their presence, it can be extremely effective. Thank you. Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Hare Krishna.
Would you hold these two things? I'm going to go get the guitar, okay?
Thank you, Adipusha, Prabhu, and Angel, for facilitating darshan today. Every time that curtain opens, there's no fear. Every time the conch shell blows, no fear. Srila Prabhupada was once asked, Srila Prabhupada, what do you feel when you chant your rounds? Srila Prabhupada said, I feel no fear. That was his answer. And there was one type of fear, is a question, open question. There was one type of fear that Srila Prabhupada kind of encouraged in his disciples. What is it? Who can tell? What type of fear did Srila Prabhupada?
Fear of Maya.
Fear of illusion, that's right. That's right. Gail, thank you so much. Yeah, you're not sufficiently afraid of Maya, Srila Prabhupada said. So we should be very careful. We should apply extreme caution when it comes to those things that can compromise our practice. It all starts very small, right? One cookie that you don't offer. Always start small. Jeffrey Prabhu.
Very well. I was just wondering, and I see Nityananda Chandra is on the call, so maybe he'll be able to address this because it's kind of a linguistic question. But as we were referencing Bhagavad Gita 1866, I was looking at the language, and it talks about do not fear because I will free you from all sinful reactions or all sinners, like sarva papebio. And that seems like that's probably a convenient Western translation. And I was wondering if anybody had a better grasp on Sanskrit that could comment on that. The papebio.
Better grasp than Prabhupada?
Excuse me?
Better grasp than Srila Prabhupada? Is that what you're
Well,
asking?
I'm just the word sinners is not an appropriate word there. I don't think that's a Christian concept in and of itself. And Prabhupada, admittedly is imperfect in his opening of the Gita, and also went to Christian schools. So I just wonder if there's another understanding of that word. Prabhupada was building a bridge for us, and thank God for him. But at the end of the day, there's linguistic truth that may be something to be discussed. I just, in terms of understanding that, um, sin implies that we are imperfect at our core. That's what that concept means. And so the truth of the Gita is that we are perfect, eternal, full of bliss, full of joy, full of knowledge. So the concept of sin and the concept of Krishna don't really cross in my mind, and I just want to understand how that word is supposed to be interpreted or understood, how we understand what Prabhupada has offered us as sin or sinful reaction or sinners.
Great question, Jeffrey Prabhu. We have our Shrimad Bible expert here, Bhima Kaviraj. He'll address this.
Haribol, can you hear me?
Certainly,
Us,
Bhima.
us old men,
He's like
Adi Purush and I, we're
a
always.
talking
Can
bush.
you hear me?
We can't see you, but we can hear you like a bush.
Okay, yeah, you don't want to see me. Anyways, it's funny because I'm looking at Adi Purush. He must be he's on the line, right. He's our resident deity, and if anybody knows the Bible, it's Adi. But let me repeat something that Adi constantly reminds me of, and that we have a choice. This is what makes love real. We have a choice, and that's an eternal choice. And Nitya Siddha, Nitya Bada, Nitya, eternal. Prabhupada, believe it or not, and Prabhu, I do go along with you. I went to college and I studied philosophy, and when I saw the Bhagavad Gita and the word for word translation, I would say, is this the devotional or bhakti transliteration of this word, or is this etymologically correct? But just because it's an important, very important subject matter about the Christian idea of sin, sunda, which comes from like a Germanic word sunder, which means asunder, to cut one off. And whereas yoga, yoke, even religion, religio, to religament, is to reconnect. So you have these words that mean either to cut off one's connection, in is in sin, or in the um, uh, you know, uh, the things that we do that have us, commit this play in the material world. That when we run after the material energy, we're actually turning away. If we are looking at the material energy, we are lusting for the material energy. We are entangled in the material energy because Lord knows she's stronger than us. And in the Christian tradition of sin, when God says, I knew you before you were born in the womb. Okay. In the Christian tradition, in the Bible, I knew you before you were born into the womb. How did he know us if we were came into this? Yes. In the Christian tradition, we came into this world because we turned away. We cut ourselves off. We sinned. It's the original sin, is to turn away. And that is, and sinful reactions are, now you're dealing with Mother Nature, now you're dealing with material energy, and she's going to, Adhyatmic, Adidevic, and Divic, she's going to kick your butt 7 ways to Sunday, forever and ever, if you keep trying to think that you're the Lord. And so when you use yoga to connect, or religion to reconnect, you become free. Krishna steps in, and he frees you from the reactions. Otherwise, we'd just be bouncing around. We couldn't concentrate on Krishna's name if we were bouncing around with the full brunt of our karma. But needless to say, as Mathuranath is apt to speak about, which is important. It's very important that Maturanath says sometimes about the trauma, because basically, as much as we doubt Krishna's protection, we will be traumatized because we are very infinitesimal, and we are subject to the laws of material nature, and the subject to the laws of those entrapped in material nature, which would be, our people who are supposed to have loved us properly and stuff like that. So, anyways, I just want to say, etymologically correct. Over the years, I've also looked up in Sanskrit dictionaries certain words Prabhupada used, and somehow he nails it every single time. So, at least in my experience and study, which is not that deep, I've seen that you can trust and have faith that whatever Prabhupada is saying covers it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Bhima. Thank you for that. Now I want to go listen to On the Turning Away by Pink Floyd. Very well.
Thank you very much. Gail has her hand up, and I think Men had her hand up.
Hare Krishna, everybody. I just wanted to offer a translation of sin that I've heard in the past, which is anything that alienates us from Krishna, or widens that gulf between us and Krishna. That's all. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Gail. Vaisheshika Prabhu explains that the word sin comes from Latin sin, which means without. And that Latin word without came from the marble that has some tinges of some cracks, and then they would fill those cracks with something that's not some wax or something to make that marble look perfect. But so that marble considered without, so marble without those fillings, without this wax is called pure marble. So sin means without, something like that. So that's Vaisheshika.
Yeah, I think it's sincere,
Sincere, yeah, sincere, yeah.
Sincere means without wax.
Yeah, without wax, yeah. So sinful.
Sincere.
Yeah, sincere. So that's Vaisheshika Prabhu's linguistic take on this subject matter. And in the devotional context, sinful means more like wrong choices. When we choose something that's not good for us, that's sinful. It's not a detrimental original starting point, as sometimes maybe that can be explained like that in some other contexts. But in our Srimad Bhagavatam context, it means wrong choices. It's not a predicament. We can make right choices also, by Krishna's grace. Right,
And
Raj?
the best part of that the best part of that deal is that Krishna is willing to wipe the board clean in a moment. He's willing to just say, forget about it all. I'll take care of you. It's an amazing thing. It's such a gift. It's such a gift, and we should be willing to give it to others.
Yeah. Just like it was given to us, we should return the favor. I remember my sister, who's not a Brahmahamsa, she's an aspiring devotee. She has her imperfections, and like all of us, but she said, as soon as I open Srimad Bhagavatam, or as soon as Kirtan begins, all my fears go away. That's what she said. So the process works. We may be weak and full of wax, but the process works. And to the extent we apply ourselves to the process, to that extent we feel no fear, Srila Prabhupada says. Karen has her hand up. Karen?
Sorry. Hare Krishna, thank you so much for class. I just had a question about something I heard someone say during the class, and it's just something that I've been hearing like somehow a lot lately, and not just in this class, but in I think even in Damodar Leela and Little Krishna that my kids watch. That this idea that Krishna will take care of us and love us, and consider him ours if we love him, and if we kind of serve him and everything. And I'm somehow, I don't know why, that's like just putting little, it's something that I'm not reconciling with this notion that I thought like I was supposed to kind of, I mean, maybe it's because he's Krishna, I don't know, but like that there's this, we're striving for unconditional love, and in that being like the kind of highest form of devotional love is this unconditional love, which is not the condition being that you don't have to love me back. And so I'm just sort of trying to, it's probably a very, very neophyte question, but I just somehow have not understood that.
It's a very good question. Krishna is loving us unconditionally, but we don't perceive his love. It's not that it's not there. It's not that he says, I'll be good to you if you're good to me. No, he's always good to everyone, the devotees and non-devotees, but unless we're serving Krishna, we don't see it.
Okay.
And Vaisheshekha Prabhu says that thing, which bearing on a lot of the comments that just came down, he says, if we don't hear sufficiently from Scripture, we'll begin to imagine injustices. Now, I'm a lamentaholic, I'm a worryaholic, I'm a, fearaholic. I know. It's my madness. It's an addiction to be in anxiety. But it's mad. It's crazy. And then when we hear from Scripture sufficiently, we will no longer imagine injustices. Oh, why this happened to me? And then we realize, no, Krishna has always been caring for me perfectly. What was I thinking? I'm sorry to talk so long. I'll go to Prabhupada.
I just put I'm not going to speak much. I'm just put in the chat a link to a lecture about how Krishna loves us. It's by Mahatma Prabhu. It's all amazing quotes from the acharyas, and even Sanatana Goswami showing, like, interpreting how Krishna psychologically thinks about us and loves us. Very, very beautiful. Check it out. It's in the chat. It's actually very transformational. All the points.
Thank you, Maturnath Prabhu. We put the link in the WhatsApp group. Um, but so what does Lord Chaitanya mean by saying to Krishna, you can handle me roughly? Does that mean you don't have to love me back? You can be indifferent? Adipurusha Prabhu, that's for you. What does Lord Chaitanya mean by that?
Krishna's love may be shown in different ways. He says, who I love, I chastise it. We are the cause. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, you are the cause of your pleasure and pain. You are the cause of your pleasure and pain. So we may think that Krishna is handling me roughly by an embrace because we ask for it. And that's what we need. Sometimes the injection of medicinal, substance may the pinch there, but it's for our benefit. It's Krishna's. Sometimes they call it tough love. So we may perceive it because of our conditioned state as something undesirable, but actually it's tender, loving care applied perfectly by the intelligent Supreme Lord who loves us.
Thank you, Adipurusha Prabhu. Man has a hand up.
Thank you so much. The verse we were speaking about before, Bhagavad Gita 1866, it's been coming up on daily basis for me for some months now. And so I've been paying attention to it. And it doesn't matter what I'm reading, not necessarily Bhagavad Gita, but Bhagavatam in different cantos, texts by different acharyas in our lineage, Chaitanya Charitamrita, it'll always lead me here. And Prabhupada directly and indirectly speaks so much, refers to this verse in so many purports. And so I've been, really sitting with it. And the word sin, it's actually an archery term where it means missing the mark. And because I've had a little bit of not a problem, but I didn't know how to understand specific word when I started reading the text. So I've been trying to find ways to understand it better. And I really like this term used in archery where it means that it's missing the mark, missing the center. And I apply that to my life. Like, how can I apply this? And I take it as kind of missing the main point of the purpose of my life as a person, as a human being, when we hear that this human life is just so valuable. So and it's funny because in the verse, in the Sanskrit verse, there's a translation of the word go. It means go, but it also means vraj. And it was really, I was talking to Veena Madhuri yesterday, and how she was saying, for her to building faith has everything to do with being in the association of pure devotees. And we're talking about visiting Adipurusha and his place. It was really it's kind of cool how this is putting everything together for me. Everything sort of clicking that visit. It was short, brief, but it was so intense that it's been with me all day yesterday. And I told Vinu Maturi that when we went to Adipusha's dwelling downstairs, it really felt like I was in Govardhan. And so this verse, it's so obvious that Adipusha is living this verse. And so it's really cool to for this verse to have brought up this morning, and seeing that word braj. It just really kind of makes me feel so grateful that I was there, that I got to visit there. So yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, man. I have the same experience. As soon as I step into that basement dungeon, all my fears go away. Because I'm immediately met with songs.
It was so effulgent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or Bodhisattva Prabhupada.
Thank you, Adipusha Prabhu, for being example of Masuchaha. Okay. So let's see. Neha, would you like to recite the Maha Mantra today to complete the offering? Yeah, we're gonna see Neha now. Neha, Hare Krishna. Check 1, check 2. Last call for Neha. Okay. Okay, right underneath Neha, I have Rick Letcher. Rick Prabhu, would you like to recite the Maha Mantra to finish the offering?
Sure. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Happy
Thank
Thursday.
you.
Give it to Krishna. Have no fear and come again tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam never ends. It has all the answers, all the Sanskrit, all the meanings for us. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Ram, say Hare Krishna.